We are here at Temple B'nai Tikvah with Rabbi Mark Glickman. It's great to be here. Thanks for having us.
Wonderful to have you here. Welcome to Temple B'nai Tikvah. If you want to come in, we can show you around a little bit.
Great, thank you. So Rabbi, as we go along here, we're kind of asking questions, of course. Now, this is a Reformed Jewish synagogue.
It is a Reformed synagogue, no ED. Reform is the most liberal of the major North American denominations. Conservative is a little bit more conservative. The strictest is Orthodox. And here we are in our entryway, and we're moving into our sanctuary, our main worship space. Now, because the COVID restrictions are currently in place, we're not meeting in here now. You can see we have a big open floor. One of the great things that we do here at Temple B'nai Tikvah is that we rent our space out on Sunday mornings to Friends Church. And so the church uses our stage over there. However, synagogues are traditionally oriented facing the east because this was originally a church. The stage is on that side, but the east wall is over here. So when we use this as a synagogue, the chairs face the east wall. You see over there, that lit cabinet there is our ark. That's where we keep our sacred Torah scrolls, and we will go over there and look at that in a moment. Before we do that, though, I also wanted to point out these beautiful domes in the ceiling. You'll see there are 6 smaller ones, each of which represents one of the days of creation. The blue and gold one over there is the first day, the creation of day and night. Then we get to water over there and plants, and you move through the 6 days of creation. And the larger one with the 6-pointed stars over the top is the one representing Shabbat, the Jewish Sabbath. Now, as we move over here, you can see, you can see that we have here our ark. This is where we keep our Torah scrolls. The Hebrew on the front is a stylized version of the 10 Commandments, or at least certain excerpts from the 10 Commandments. And every Sabbath and on holidays, we read out of one of these sacred scrolls. And so this is really, in terms of a place, this is probably the most sacred place in the synagogue because the Torah is considered God's greatest gift to our people. The Torah scroll is a handwritten scroll written by a scribe using a feather quill on parchment containing all the 5 books of Moses, beginning with the story of creation and ending with the death of Moses. One holiday each year, we unroll the whole scroll, and we have people standing around the periphery of this room holding it. It's a few hundred feet long. And so here in this ark, we have 3 Torah scrolls. This one in particular is very special to our congregation because, I mean, they're all very special, of course, but this one is particularly special because it was one that we helped create ourselves during the past couple of years. Every congregant, we had a scribe come here and sort of set up shop here, and every congregant who wanted to had the opportunity to help the scribe as he took the quill and made a letter in the scroll. And so you can see here the parchment that the scrolls are written on, and we take these out and open them during our Sabbath and festival celebrations.
That's wonderful, Rabbi. Can you tell us what this is on the right side here?
Yeah, so over here we have, this is just a small table that we use. These hanging here are taluses or talitot. These are prayer shawls. And some people, when they come up to say a blessing over the reading of Torah, will want to wear one of these. So we have some extra ones here. And then on top of this table, we put all the clothing and the hardware that we use to decorate the Torah when we read it. So we put the 2 finials on these poles here and the cover and the breastplate here so that we can undress the Torah and read it.
Now, we saw something interesting in here before over here on this side. Can you tell us more about this?
Okay, so over here, come on over here. Over here, we have our memorial wall. And this is on top it says, Zecher Tzadik Livracha, which is Hebrew for what it says right on the bottom. May the memory of the righteous be remembered for a blessing, or may the memory of the righteous be a blessing. And if you have a family member who has died and you would like to memorialize them, you can get a plaque put up here, and then on the anniversary of that person's death every year, we illumine the light that is next to that person's name as a way of memorializing them in perpetuity.
That's a wonderful remembrance.
Thank you.
As we go maybe to back here, if that's okay, can
Yes.
you describe to us how someone becomes a rabbi?
Yes. Let's walk this way. Be careful not to trip on the cords. To become a Reform rabbi, remember I said this is a Reform synagogue, and I'm a Reform rabbi. To become a Reform rabbi, you go to a university or a college in the States. You study, you get an undergraduate degree, and then after that, it's 5 years of rabbinical school at the Hebrew Union College, the Hebrew Union College Jewish Institute of Religion. Everybody goes to Jerusalem for the first year to study at the campus there, and then there are campuses in the United States, in New York, Los Angeles, and Cincinnati, where you pick one of those, and you go there for 4 more years after that, studying sacred texts as well as counseling skills and how to write a lesson plan and how to read a synagogue budget and all kinds of things like that. We write a thesis, we do a major research project. We serve student pulpits. It's a very involved and very intense 5-year experience of learning and spiritual and academic growth.
All the essentials. There you go. Now, we just arrived in this room.
Yeah,
What's
so
this room?
This is our library. This is our library, one of my favorite rooms in the building. We have our collection of books here that congregants can use, they can check out. We also hold classes and all kinds of meetings here. Of particular note are these pictures up here. These are the presidents of our congregation. This congregation was formed, it was founded in 1979. Just last year, we celebrated the 40th anniversary of our founding, and we really have a sense of the history of this synagogue as we look at the pictures of all of our congregants, many of whom are still around. In fact, I'm going to be seeing several of these people at our AGM, which we're holding on Zoom this evening.
Wonderful. Now, where does your personal name come from?
My personal name? My name Mark is kind of an unusual name for a rabbi to have, especially when I'm speaking with Christians, because of course that was one of the names of the apostles in the Bible, and it was just a name that my assimilated parents liked. Glickman, my last name, is Yiddish and German, I suppose, for lucky man. And many Jews used to take it after they got out of or avoided service in the Tsar's army. There were drafts of Jewish boys and young men. They would often have to serve for 25 years, and the survival rates were very low. So if they got out of that somehow, they often took on as a surname when they had to take them on in the late 18th century, lucky man, because they considered themselves so fortunate. And I think it's very appropriate for my life because I consider myself to be a very fortunate guy.
Thank you. That's great.
Okay.
But maybe as we move to the next place
Yes.
here, just a quick question for you.
Yes.
Maybe a little bit more theological here is, would you say that they worship the same God as Christians, Muslims, maybe some other religions too?
Well, look, there is one of the only things that theistic Jews will agree on, and there are very few of them, but one of the only things we agree on is the oneness of God. And I know that Christianity and Islam also consider themselves to be monotheistic religions. And if there's one God, there can only be one God. So it's got to be the same God. Now, certainly we believe very different things about that one God. But if you're a monotheistic religion, there's only one. So we've all got to be worshiping the same God, even though we have some pretty significant disagreements in many ways about what that God is and what that God wants of us. But it's the same God.
Thanks so much. That's great.
So let's go in here. This is our chapel. It's a smaller worship space. One of the interesting things about Judaism is that in Judaism, at its very root, we don't have any such thing as sacred spaces. We have sacred times. We mark the passage of time. We're time nerds in so many ways. But a space is only sacred during the times when we're doing sacred things in it. So what that means is that while this is our chapel, and sometimes in the summer or when we have maybe on long weekends when everybody's traveling, we will have small services here. When it's not being used as a worship space, we will also very often use this as a classroom or as a meeting place, because there isn't anything necessary, while it is certainly a special room to us, there isn't anything inherently sacred about it, so we can really use this as a multi-purpose space. And so that's one of the things that we use this room for, our small chapel.
Can you name 3 modern cool Jews?
I think I was the one who wrote that question. Yes, I can name 3 very cool Jews. Let's see. One of them would have to be, a person who comes to mind only because he just died a few days ago, and that was a man named Yaakov Shweka, whose family was from Egypt, and he lived in Israel. He was a computer scientist in Israel who taught the computer how to look at old manuscripts, and taught the computer how to, there was a collection that I wrote a book about called the Cairo Geniza, hundreds of thousands of manuscripts from Egypt that are now scattered around the world. He taught the computer how to look at the shape of each of these and figure out, if a manuscript had been torn, which ones joined up with one another, even though they might be thousands of miles apart, and to identify who probably wrote out the manuscript. He was a wonderful man who just died. I think another one is Sandy Koufax, a pitcher for the New York Yankees, who refused to pitch on Yom Kippur, the Day of Atonement, even though it was during the World Series, and more importantly than that, is, by all accounts, is just one of the sweetest guys around. And one of the other cool Jews is my wife Karen. She's about as cool as they come, because of all the strength that she gives me.
Yeah,
so
let's
continue across the hall here.
Now, Rabbi, can you sing us one or a few bars of your favorite religious song?
Of my favorite religious song. I'll sing. I have so there's so much rich and beautiful Jewish music. I'll sing you just a few bars of one of the songs that I like, but there are many of them. This is a version of Adon Olam, a hymn that we sing at the end of our services often. And the melody was a Sephardic melody. It was written by the descendants of Jews who fled from Spain after all the Jews were expelled in 1492. And they wrote a melody that starts like this. Adon olam asher malach beterem go yitzir nivra liet nasa bechefzo kol azai melech shemo nikra. Now, other people could sing it more on key than that, but that was a little taste of it.
That was wonderful. Thank you.
This is my study here, my ordination certificate, proving that I'm the real deal. You can see I'm a little bit of a book nerd. I have this is about half my library. The other half is at home. And one book that I just wanted to show you that I thought you might be interested in was one of the books that gave me the bug in collecting Jewish books. This I inherited from a rabbi whom I never met, but his widow and his daughter and son-in-law belonged to one of my previous congregations. And at one point they came up to me and said, his books are gathering dust in boxes. Do you want them? Kind of said, yes, I do. And the next day, 10 boxes of books showed up in my office, including this. And this book is a volume of the Talmud. This is one of the, in terms of classical Jewish study, it's the second most important text next to the Torah. It was written in 2 stages. One was codified in about the year 200. The other was codified in about the year 500. You see the Talmud text are these words in the center of the page here, and around the outside you have commentaries. This was clearly an old volume of Talmud, and when I first opened it, I looked at the page here, and this says Tractate Rosh Hashanah. So this is a tractate about the Jewish New Year from the Babylonian Talmud. That's the most widely studied Talmud. It was published, this word here is Amsterdam, in Amsterdam, and And then it way down here you see it says in the year, and then it gives a biblical verse. But if you look closely in this biblical verse, some of the letters are larger than others. This is an encrypted way of putting dates on classical Jewish books. These large letters here are also numbers. The Hebrew equivalent of an A is 1, a B is 2, etc. And so these numbers refer to the year in the Hebrew calendar. And the Jewish calendar is very complicated. It's about 3,760 years different from the Gregorian calendar. I put it into this formula to figure out when it was published. This book was published in 1752. In Amsterdam. And I love studying it. First of all, when you open it up, I wish you had a sense of this over the video, but you can almost smell the tulips in the Dutch countryside near the windmills of Amsterdam. And so we're studying ancient words here, written down in antiquity, although not. These are works of biblical and Talmudic law, written down in antiquity, published a quarter of a millennium ago, and here we are studying them in Calgary. So that's just one of my favorite books. I've got a lot more.
All the way to Calgary.
Yes.
One final question for you,
Yes.
Rabbi. How many Jews live in Calgary?
So we believe there are about 8,000 Jews who live in Calgary. It kind of depends on how you count them. There's some disagreement about that, but the number that's most often given is about 8,000. Here in our synagogue, we have about 320 families. So that's several hundred Jews if you count the kids and all the adults. And it's a great community to live in and a great community to be a part of, and I'm thankful every day that I am.
Thank you for giving us a wonderful tour of this beautiful synagogue.
Thank you.